Heirs of the Outdoors is partnered with PodHub Network, your local network of podcasts in the Pittsburgh area. PETA gives 8 anti-hunting arguments. I'm Brian McLaughlin here with Nolan Duncan, and this is Heirs Podcast. Okay, so I'd like to begin by saying that we are not going to go out against people who are specifically anti-hunting. We have no problem with people, as from a civil libertarian standpoint, to say if you have a problem with hunting, just keep to yourself. The people that we have a problem with are the malicious anti-hunters, especially coming from PETA. I'm not a big fan of PETA, to be honest, but the malicious ones who seek to use the state to ban hunting and then therefore force their worldview upon me, then we have a problem. I think that's a pretty fair argument. Wouldn't you agree?
I would say I think the main reason we want to have this discussion is because a lot of hunters obviously are against PETA. And I think the people that we want to reach out to are the ones that are on the fence about PETA.
Or at least reasonable.
A lot of things that PETA provides are very false or full of anecdotal arguments. So we want to clear it up and just show you some of the things that they are saying that contradict what actually happened in the real world. So that's what I seek to gain from this discussion.
Right. I think PETA started out really good and then just went drastically radical. I think everyone kind of came together last year. Remember when it was Steve Irwin's birthday, and they said he was a terrible person and abused animals, and pretty much everyone from every part of the political spectrum and everyone in the entire world basically just turned on PETA and were like, yeah, you don't touch Steve Irwin.
Oh, absolutely not. The amount of austere acts, and I use that unironically, austere as not a terrorist.
Austere religious scholar.
Yeah, so I feel that the things that Steve actually did in his life were so he contributed so much to the greater good of wildlife and conservation in general, I feel, because he actually went out and demonstrated how these animals behave. They were more than just a predator. They were more than just a snake or a or
sharks and everything. He made it more so people were like afraid of a lot of these things. And he said, hey, people see him like messing with alligators and stuff, and it made people more aware and more like less hateful of wildlife, rather than PETA saying that he disturbed wildlife and therefore he should be a hated person. Yeah. I don't even know any one person I've ever met in my entire life before I read that PETA article that said anything
absolutely
bad. It's ridiculous.
I'd never heard anyone say negative things about Steve Irwin, because he built that empathy with wildlife in general, and his family to this day still love the wildlife, even through these tragic times with the Australian fires and everything. They're putting their heart and soul into protecting the nature around them. So kudos to them. And I can't say it enough. Absolutely love Steve Irwin and his family tremendously.
I would like to get someone who's super pro PETA and actually sit down with them at some point.
I don't think you'll ever see
it's probably because I don't really think they'd be interested in that, although of course we would be. So basically where we come from is we found this one article. It was written just a couple years ago, so it's relatively new, and it says what's wrong with hunting, posted someone by the name of Kim, and she starts out by saying studies show, she just says studies without citing any studies, that hunters stalk and kill animals for the thrill of it, not out of necessity. Here are 8 reasons why you should never support hunting. And to get back to her first claim, they kill for the thrill of it, not out of necessity. I'm not going to apologize for killing animals. We pursue them. Okay. And it's not easy to do 99% of the time. And yes, we are one of the few species, which I'll admit unapologetically, that hunt for the thrill of it. It's not like we torture these animals or anything like that. It's just, it is a natural thing that some animals, including Homo sapiens, enjoy the thrill of the hunt and the kill. So I just people that have never been exposed to it, like you're one of them. And I know my sister was before she started bow hunting, and now she wants to do it all. People just that have never experienced it, kind of like a don't knock it before you try it thing, don't know what we're talking about until they actually go and do it.
Right. At least have the open mind to explore. I think the biggest thing is when she says most hunters stalk and kill animals out of the thrill of it, not out of necessity. How do you know that? How do you know that some people aren't doing it out of necessity? And, we live in a first world nation. That's one thing. But imagine going to Africa. Those people have to hunt to survive. I don't think they're just doing it for the thrill of it.
Yeah, I think she's more so referring to first world countries and stuff like that. And I grew up on deer meat. I still eat deer meat now because I'm not going to go buy meat at the grocery store because I'd have like no money. I'm a law student. I don't really have a lot of money to just go around to buy steaks, which I will always slam steaks. I don't know how vegans or vegetarians do it.
I will mention, just to give her the benefit of the doubt, I don't believe like trophy hunting and just hunting for the thrill of it is necessarily a good thing. You shouldn't just hunt because you want to get the biggest animal and hang it in your room. I think you should hunt to harvest it and actually have the supply of food and everything for your family. I think
definitely. I mean, I do both. I like, if I obviously want to shoot the biggest bucks every year, shoot the nicest ducks. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. But I mean, I don't really know any, do you know any hunters that just shoot animals and then like don't use the meat? That doesn't exist.
That doesn't exist.
That does not exist. But anyway, so there's 8 arguments. We're going to go ahead and get to number 1. It says hunting causes pain and suffering. And they use a couple pictures here of a deer with an arrow through its nose coming out its cheek. Quite graphic. And I just wanted to say, you can watch any of our videos that we post online. That shooting a shot like that, like a facing towards shot, is straight up unethical. The only shots that we take are broadside shots that go right through the boiler room, the lungs and the heart. Sometimes it'll go through like hit gut or something like that, liver even. That's the shot that is portrayed here just doesn't happen to any skilled hunter. And it's just like, that's, if you actually teach ethical hunting like we do, that does not happen. I've never seen that in person. And a lot of times these PETA people and these antis, what they like to do is they like to take the micro and then try to apply it at a macro where it doesn't apply at all. Like I can take any argument or any situation or any act and show you something terrible that has happened because of it, whether it's rollerblading, parkour, grandmas in knitting circles, and something terrible is going to happen or something that skeeves you out happens. But that's definitely not even close to like the average thing that occurs. Like these people, like I said, they don't know, they don't have an open mind about hunting at all, and that's why we get people making these arguments. You
know who usually does this the most? Those salesmen. So you always back up a good sale with something annoying. So for example, say, hey, here's this brand new TV, this 60-inch TV. Okay, look at the great picture. It's not like your tube television, which is crap. Okay, see, they're trying to sway you from the negative to
they're being hyperbolic is what they're doing,
to the positive, and that's what they're doing here. She's trying to sell you on the idea that hunting is bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let's go with the actual words. She says, this form of violent entertainment rips families apart and leaves countless animals orphaned or badly injured when hunters miss their targets. Quick kills are rare, and many animals endure prolonged, painful deaths when they're hurt but not killed by other hunters. Well, let's just start off with the first sentence. She said that it rips families apart. Okay. Animals, except for I think elephants and very few other animals, deer don't have this, rabbits don't have this. They don't feel anything when they say it rips families apart. Another part of the herd will go down and they will think nothing of it, just go on, continue with the rest of their lives. Mm-hmm. Therefore, that's kind of a terrible point, and she probably doesn't know that, which I can't blame her for it. And then it says quick kills are rare and many animals endure prolonged painful deaths. Now, false.
Yeah, false.
That's false. Like when we hunt deer, we have videos of us shooting deer and they fall down within our sight. Your deer, the first deer you ever got, flipped upside down. It was done in literally, basically instantly.
Yeah, within like 30 seconds, it was gone.
Oh, it flipped upside down. It bleeded, and then it was kicking, and it was done. That was it. Am I saying that that it never happens to where someone gets a terrible shot on a deer and it'll go through a lot of pain? I mean, yeah, that happens, but I mean that happens with literally anything. Like there are millions of deer that get hit by a car each year, mm-hmm. and suffer all these injuries. I mean, like there's so many other instances where animals like coyotes, they'll go up behind them and they'll bite them in the hind legs and then the butt, and then those survive too. Mm-hmm. I mean, but the vast majority of kills by hunters are very, very quick kills. As it says that quick kills are rare. That's an absolute false statement with absolutely nothing to back it up, besides a couple of pictures that, you see and are used for clickbait.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can go on here. It says that there's like one study of deer, I don't know where, probably like city deer or something like that, saying that a large portion of deer had been shot and then not recovered and then wounded. And they wanted to make this seem, it said it was by the South Dakota Department of Fish and Game and Parks. And then what I'm saying is this, I don't really think that I've ever seen it happen personally where like you see a deer running around with like an arrow in it. I mean, it's either usually a quick miss or you hit something fatal and it goes down. Like these, like it shows one that it's like in the butt, but very high. I've never seen anything like that. And I've been hunting literally my entire life, and I'm not sure my father has either. It's just like they like I said, they want to use this micro argument and apply it to the macro where it doesn't belong. And like I said, there's so many other situations where animals and people get hurt. Hunting is not part of this. Like hunting is, later they're going to end up saying that people can get shot and livestock can get shot. Yeah, like a lot of things can happen. You can literally get hit by going outside and walking to your vegan restaurant. So we're going to go on to, do you have anything else to say about that before we go on about population control and conservation?
I have noted here that she has zero sources cited here. Like she has some things like directing to these quotes and stuff, but these are not followed by actual citations.
Yeah, and it says the South Dakota Department of Fish and Game. Like I don't see that, and they estimate that like millions of ducks go unretrieved each year. I mean, I don't find that to be accurate at all. I mean, most ducks and geese that we shoot, we usually end up finding.
Yeah. And I honestly, if you don't supply me with a link to that original statement, I actually won't believe what you're saying whatsoever, because you could be misconstruing that just in your favor alone. And there could be a lot of other things that are contextually in there that go against her argument.
They're definitely multivariate issues. And then it says, number 2, it isn't about conservation or population control. And I'll just read what she says first, and then we'll dissect it. It says, in school, you might have learned about Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection, which says the sickest and weakest animals are most likely to be killed by natural predators, leaving the strongest animals. And it says hunters, however, disrupt the natural balance because they prefer to kill the largest, strongest animals. Now this is presumptuous, as it asserts that all these there's a large portion of weak animals in a herd. If you have a healthy herd, by allowing like the smaller amount of animals to with avoiding overpopulation, then you're not going to get those weak animals just walking around. If you have a strong herd due to hunting or some other kind of population control, all these animals are going to be strong. The only time you get disheveled weak animals is if you have an overpopulation. There's not enough food for all of them. Right. So, and like I said, it's not about conservation. The vast majority of conservation dollars are from hunters because we actually care about the game we're hunting. Yes, deer is the white-tailed deer is my favorite animal. Yeah, I kill them, but I actually care about them a lot too. I enjoy watching them. I enjoy a healthy deer population. I don't enjoy overpopulated areas where there's smaller deer and I see them all get hit on the side of the road all the time. In Allegheny County, Bucks County, anywhere near like a big city, and 2B, actually here in Pittsburgh, that we know, you can kill as many deer as you physically can. You can keep going and buying doe tags because they want them all gone, because population control, like how many people die each year by hitting deer. It is absolutely about population control. And I want to maintain a healthy deer population. So this comes from a point of ignorance, really. And I just don't really see how you can make these arguments and actually know anything about hunting or what is going through our minds, because she's making presumptions of what's going through my mind when I hunt, right? And that's not right.
Do you remember the story about 5 years ago where that girl went to Africa and she killed the lion? Like it was Cecil the lion or something. I think her name was Kendall Jones, and by the way, she's actually
it was a dentist. It was a male dentist, but there was another one about she killed a giraffe. I think a girl killed a giraffe.
I think she killed many things, but I think she did kill a lion too. But But I think the biggest thing is people don't understand that she actually paid for that hunt. And secondly, it was an old lion. So the reason why they killed it is because that old lion wasn't producing any offspring in the herd. So it by killing him, it introduced another lion to take care of the pride and actually produce offspring so these animals could actually thrive in the wild. They don't understand. People don't seem to understand.
Yeah, and even if it's not like, even if he's not doing that, even if it's like a healthy lion, it goes around and actually attacks villagers. You can look up how many people get killed by lions each year, and these lion hunts are really, really expensive. I'm not saying that I would ever do it. Maybe if I had the money, it'd be kind of cool to go do something like that, because it'd be really dangerous also for myself, which I guess might be a thrill, and I'm not going to apologize for that either. But if you're paying like over 10 grand to go kill a lion, that stimulates the African economy, especially with these places that they have nothing. And that's big for them.
It deters poaching too, because
people go around and scout for their clients, and then they will catch poachers doing that. I read an article that did that. Exactly. I can probably source it, unlike this person. But we can move on to number 3. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. It says it's not a sport. And then they define sport. I actually looked up the definition of a sport, and I agree. I don't really think it is necessarily a sport to hunt, because it says like it makes the argument that they both need to be consensual and like a game. But why do I have to define it as a sport? Like, why does that matter to me right now? Like, I grew up with this. It is my passion. I enjoy it. It's what I live for. So I really don't see how they keep trying to make this argument that because it's not a sport, therefore we should ban it. No, absolutely not.
I just feel like the term sport can be used more loosely. I did talk to you about this earlier, but 2,000 years ago, gladiators fighting in a big coliseum was a product of entertainment for people back then. And yes, it was a sport. Not to compare gladiators to hunting or anything, but the word sport does have a loose connotation to it.
Right. And I guess what they want to do is point out that there was consent between the hunter and the hunted. Well, just because it's a human doing it, they don't consent to, like, deer don't consent to coyotes hunting them. Rabbits don't. It is a natural thing. And like we said, population control is necessary. The Game Commission increases the doe tags when the population gets too high. And that's just something it is absolutely about conservation, population control, regardless if it's a sport or not.
Right.
But I mean, that was a pretty quick one. And this is the big one we're going to hit on. And I literally laughed out loud when I read this at first. It says there are few regulations.
Yeah, that's a bunch of bullshit.
That is the biggest lie I've ever heard in my life. Okay, let me just say this. In Pennsylvania, there are so many hunting regulations that people often are breaking the law and probably don't even know it. Because like literally there's regulations in certain areas. You can only use certain weapons, and if you get a doe tag, you can only shoot it in this area. Like, you can't shoot it across this road, but you can shoot it across this road. If you're hunting this, you have to use this caliber rifle, this caliber shot. You have to use steel shot. You can use lead shot. And like, you can shoot doves in the morning, but not past noon. They actually just changed that 2 years ago. But you actually have to basically be a lawyer to decipher all of these regulations that the Game Commission puts out in multiple states. So I'm not, she says, like, she tries to make this argument, and it's not supported at all. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Right. And there's no story like the hunt that they have posted here in that picture. Obviously, it does look like it's an African nation of some sort.
Yeah, shooting a kudu.
Right. There's no backstory to that story whatsoever. It's just there for dramatic effect. And I hate that, because you're not painting the full context of the story. You're just throwing it in there to support your laughable argument.
What are they doing again? They're using a micro that isn't even supported by any facts, story, or data, and then trying to apply it to the macro. This is an African hunter, and you're trying to put that on me as a Pennsylvania hunter. Yeah. It's a
completely different world.
Terrible argument. Yeah. But okay, we'll go on to number 5. It says it's profit driven. And I'm going to say, yes, it is, because we need profit each year. Like, the Pennsylvania Game Commission is sitting on millions because each year, I mean, I think that maybe we could spend a little less on licenses and more people would buy them, but that's a separate argument. Just telling you what the Pennsylvania Game Commission's done, and also like the National Wild Turkey Federation and other groups like that, when it comes to specific animals. Before like 1950, like in the 1940s and below, there was no white-tailed deer season in Pennsylvania because there wasn't any white-tailed deer. there was no turkey season until like I think the late 1980s or something like that, because there wasn't a huntable population of wild turkeys. There wasn't elk at all. We actually brought elk from out west and brought it over here, and now you can hunt all three in Pennsylvania, and there is an abundant population, but controlled population through conservation, just so you can hunt there, and that's all thanks to the profits driven by and acquired by these hunting licenses.
Yeah, and with that being said, I want to give a brief shout out to the National Wild Turkey Federation, because they actually helped with that kind of situation, right? With turkeys growing the population throughout the years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, now actually Pennsylvania is one of the best states to turkey hunt in. I mean, I have a qualms with the placement of the turkey season. I think it's way too late. It's basically hunting summer turkeys where they're not even gobbling anymore in some areas. In some areas they gobble the whole time, but we'll do another podcast on that. But yeah, the National Wild Turkey Federation, one of our members, Dave Seaton, is a member of it. They help kids, and then we have a very similar goal when it comes to conservation and getting the youth involved. So big shout out to them. Thank you very much. I think we can move on from there. I mean, we only have, 3 left. It claims other non-target victims. Now, this is funny. It says, it has a picture of a lady, and it says hunters are not only injured by other hunters, but risk to being attacked by other animals too. Yeah, well, you can be hiking. You can literally be doing any other outdoor activity and be susceptible to being attacked by an animal. But you know what you won't have if you're out doing that thing? You might not have a firearm on you to defend yourself. So that's like one of the most terrible arguments ever. And then it says hunting accidents often, not just sometimes or rarely, or can, they say often, injure or kill horses, cows, dogs, cats, hikers, and other hunters. Now, this is such a rarity. I'm pretty sure, you are so much more likely to get shot by somebody else if you're walking in any city street here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I would assume, because I know there's a situation. One guy up in Erie, Pennsylvania, or near, I think Crawford County, actually accidentally killed himself when he was duck hunting. His gun went off. That's because he wasn't using the proper procedures, and safety procedures to not injure himself. I'm not saying it never happens, but it's so rare. Using this as a reason to not hunt or to be against hunting, especially when it comes to legislatively, is a terrible argument.
Yeah. How about that guy it was earlier last year where he actually got attacked by a mountain lion and he choked it to death because he was defending himself. So what does PETA have to say to that? Should you, if they're so pro animal, do you just let the mountain lion just thrash you about?
Hey guys, don't go outside. Literally just stay in your apartment, stay in your house, never go outside. Because I'm going to introduce legislation. I'm going to get to my state representative and have him introduce legislation that it should be illegal to go outside because you might get attacked.
We are talking about PETA, the group that euthanizes more animals than the Humane Society.
I didn't even know that, actually. Yeah. I knew the Humane Society did, but I think that's terrible.
Oh, it's absolutely hypocritical.
Yeah, they want to be compassionate, but they buy their meat from a grocery store where their animals are raised specifically to be killed. And we actually have our animals run around. We know exactly where it comes from. They're free. And then, we obviously bring them, and we kill them ourselves, but at least they had a life before that. And then it goes on to say that dogs who are used also suffer. And I think that, it says people run dogs for deer in the South. They run them for rabbits and they have ducks retrieve them around here. Now, these dogs love it. They absolutely love doing that. It gets them so excited. You ever say hey, do you want to go hunting? And the dog just freaks out and screams. Oh, they love it so much.
What about the new guy that we met whenever we went goose hunting? You remember?
Yeah. Jake Finnegan is his dog. We went out another time and shot a couple mallards. Basically in the city.
What was his name? Chief was what?
Chief? No, that was Tim Petrie. Yeah, he has
Tim
Chief,
Petrie.
And then Jacob has Finnegan.
Yeah, Tim, if you're listening, miss you, bud.
Yeah, dude, I want to hunt with your dog again. That was really fun. You can actually watch that video. We had a goose video of September 2nd. We did really good on goose hunting this year, so you can watch that.
Let me share with you this actual citation from the Washington Post of all places.
The Washington Compost. Yeah. Okay, let's hear it.
So it says in 2014, according to its own records, it took PETA took in 3,017 animals, about 1% of the total number of brought to the private Virginia shelters. Okay, of those PETA euthanized 2,455 of them. About 81% that were in that shelter.
Oh my God.
Yes. In some prior years, that rate has risen above 90%. So they are saying that they're doing more to help the animals rather than, destroy it. That this just clearly tells me that they're destroying the animals more than they're helping.
4 out of 5. Yeah. Hey, if you're a PETA member and you don't actually have your entire property devoted to keeping animals alive, you're a hypocrite.
Absolutely.
Anyways, okay, so we can go to this next one. Violence against animals can lead to violence against humans. Well, they say the same thing about video games, but everyone knows that millions and millions and millions and millions of people play video games all across the world, and millions of people hunt. But that doesn't mean that you're going to go and shoot up a school. Like, they have a picture of a kid here who shot his parents and then 22 others at his school. That just destroyed that argument right there.
It's not related to hunting. It's related to animal abuse and past personality issues that this kid had. It's not suggesting he hunted and freaking actually appreciated wildlife in general. No, it looks like he's known to have those behavioral issues. So I don't think that is relative. What is that? Is that a red herring in logical fallacies?
I think it is a red herring. Or it's just I don't really know. It's one of those logical fallacies that obviously is in an argument. And it says research in psychology and criminology shows that people who commit violent acts against animals rarely stop there. And they say they would move on to humans. Really? Because millions and millions of people do it. It just decimates that argument. We can move on because there's not much more to say about that besides that it's just illogical. Last one, number 8, it's unnecessary. Well, it might be in some areas, and it might not be in others. Like when it comes to, like I said, deer population control, the amount of people who hit deer with their vehicles every year. You don't know. Like maybe people have, like we used to have chickens and raccoons and coyotes and foxes used to eat our chickens and our livestock. Bernstein, state representative, was paying people, like I think a couple years ago, like, hey, $500 to anyone who can kill a coyote because they killed some of my livestock. Sometimes it is absolutely necessary. To say it's a blanket statement it's unnecessary. Some people actually use it to feed their families nowadays. Even in 2020, it says hunters have a choice, and with all the delicious pastas, fruits and vegetables and grains are cheaply available, there's no reason to kill animals to survive. Well, what if I just want to? What if I enjoy the thrill of hunting, like I said? What if I feed my family with it? So you can't go out and say that it's unnecessary as a blanket statement, like I said. And like I said, these people want to use this these facts that are obviously not true to, like, applying the micro to the macro, to apply to everyone, just so that they can use the government to force their moral authority over me.
Let me easily dissect that statement as completely ridiculous. So pastas, okay, you have to get pastas from grains. You have to farm those grains. And you know what usually happens when they farm grains? Little mice and stuff get caught up in those millers typically, and you're killing animals.
Yeah.
Okay. Fruits. You're taking the fruits from their natural, farm. And now you don't have food for those animals. They're going to die.
And even in Pennsylvania, we have red tag farms to where they allot a whole bunch of deer killing permits because they're eating the crops.
Yeah.
So they just slaughter them on these farms because they're killing your pastas, well, grains, obviously, fruits, vegetables. So just because it isn't physically meat, I don't know how you vegans do it and you vegetarians do it. Just because it isn't physically meat doesn't mean animals didn't die for people to produce it.
Right.
I think that's a really big point. I have to look for it. I can't really say, I can't provide the source, but I did read something before that said that it like the amount of acreage that you need to produce, if everyone went vegan or vegetarian, would kill the ecosystems and so many more animals than people just eating meat.
Right. It's a sterilization of the natural way of society. And I don't agree with PETA's, especially this lady's sentiment on it, regardless, because it's just all nonsense. It's just a way to try to force people to conform to their unrealistic thinking. It's more or less just go to the grocery store and forget about everything else. That is like 1984 stuff to me in the most ridiculous ways. Just don't ask, just get what you're told to get, and that's not
use
how
the
I
government gun to make people do what I want them to do.
Only police should have guns.
Only police should have guns. Yeah, okay. And then they say what you can do to combat hunting in your area, to post no hunting signs. But then get this. They say that you should spread deer repellent or gather human hair from barber shops and put it out near hunting areas. I mean, obviously this for deer, it might spook them a little bit until they get used to it, just like everything else. But if I have a hunting area and I spent my hard-earned money to buy expensive acreage, and you're doing everything you can on your property to actually kick the wildlife off of my property so I can't hunt them, I'm a law student, and I know that you can probably sue for tort liability for that.
Listen,
you're preventing me from enjoying my own property.
If I'm a barber and you come into my shop and ask for a whole flock of hair because you want to like go out and spread it in the wild, I'm going to tell you to get that.
What a weird. Who even thinks of that? That's so strange.
I don't know.
Oh my God. They're insane.
This is before the Trump too. So I don't know what kind of derangement syndrome this is, but
oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, well, actually, to be fair, this was January. He probably didn't even say half the things that made people mad then. But yeah, no, this is just this is more anti, propaganda. Like I said, we have no qualms with anyone who is anti-hunting, as long as you aren't trying to infringe on my rights and my lifestyle. I have no problem with you. If you have any issues with anything we said, or you have anything to add, please comment below. We really appreciate you listening to all of this. And until next time, guys, you have anything else to say?
Just make sure you like, subscribe, and as Brian said, comment below your thoughts and opinions on this article. We'll post all citations in the description below. But you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for listening.